Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that were canceled and or short-lived that I would like to see get brought back in some shape or form. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Netflix series Shadow and Bone. Really quickly, if you're unfamiliar with Shadow and Bone is, it's this action-adventure fantasy series that follows Alina. She's just kind of a normal person in this, like I said, fantastical world where like we have these warring countries, and in some case there's straight up a civil war situation going on in some countries. In particular, isn't it Ravka, the country that the story mainly takes place in, I think. Either way, she's revealed to be a being known as a sun summoner. I think they're like seen as like these mythical entities no one thought they existed. I don't remember if it's a situation of like there's one every 1,000 years, or they're just like they're extremely rare, because in this universe there's these beings known as Grisha. Basically, they're humans that have, it's not magic, but it's somewhat magic, because in this universe magic exists, but it's a different thing. What the Grisha do is called, I always forget the term, I think it's little science. It's actually interesting. It's kind of like a cross between alchemy from Full Metal Alchemist and bending from Avatar: The Last Airbender / The Legend of Korra. Whereas like Legend of Korra, like Avatar and Legend of Korra, you can kind of just summon the elements out of nowhere in some cases, and you like just magically summon up these elements. That's, except in some cases like the water bending element, you actually have to like use and manipulate water. That's basically how they handle, like the Grisha use their powers. Is it's not like out of nowhere. They kind of do an alchemy of, we turn something into something else, and that's how we produce our powers. It seems like it might appear like it's out of nowhere, but they summon these powers, and they can also manipulate said elements, whether that's fire, water, wind. There's even a situation of like Grisha can even use it to heal stuff, like with this power, or repair stuff. So it's just the utilization is such an interesting element to it. But that's also what makes Alina as a sun summoner, like her power is specifically this bright and powerful light, which no other Grisha has. That's what makes the sun summoner so important. But Alina gets brought in by a commander in one of the armies, the Ravka army, Kurgan, who has the power of shadow, and this is all about a being a long time ago who put up this giant dark shadow wall known as the Fold. It's like a massive wall that divides Ravka between, like, was it east and west, I believe is how it's divided. And as a sun summoner, Alina's supposed to get stronger so she can tear it down. It's the whole thing, a legend behind that, and it's her adventure on trying to discover her role as a sun summoner and kind of uncovering some stuff about the history behind the person who brought up the Fold and everything. I'm blanking on what the person's called off the top of my head, but there's reveals and developments on the mystery front side of that. But also on another side of the story, you have like Mal, who is he is Alina's best friend, who you pretty early on go like, oh, there's something there too, on a more beyond friendship thing. And so it's him trying to find her and bring her back. And it's following like these two separate stories that are interwoven in this capacity, as well as like the Six of Crows, who are kind of like a charming band of thieves who kind of have their own plot in this, who they're kind of in the middle of all this. Well, like I said, there's so many moving threads going on throughout the story. That's just giving the gist of it. I think I did a terrible job explaining it, but yeah. Sadly, the show was recently canceled. News came out. The show was not getting a third season. And also, there was going to be a Six of Crows spinoff. That's not happening because the series is based off a large number of novels. There's like the Shadow and Bones trilogy, which the show was mainly based on. But apparently, they brought in some of the stuff from the Six of Crows. That's where you get like Kaz and his crew. But I was under the impression that they were pulling stories from, like that, basically they were doing the Shadow and Bone trilogy and the Six of Crows duology in the same story. Maybe they're pulling elements from Six of Crows, but apparently them getting their own spin-off makes me go like, maybe some of the roles they played in Shadow and Bone were other characters, but to kind of introduce these characters early on before giving their own spin-off, kind of backdoor piloting them a little bit. Maybe they play the exact same role in the books too, but for them to kind of be introduced in that way and then still get their own spin-off, I thought their stories were, maybe there's just so much that goes on in their story, it'd be too much to include all of that on top of all the Shadow and Bone stuff in one story. But even beyond that, I don't think I knew this, but there were even more books in that universe too. There's a book series called The King of Crows duology, and then there's also apparently like 3 more supplemental books in that. So there's even more to that universe than I didn't realize. But yeah, sadly we're not getting any of that, which is such a bummer, because it's not like the show covered everything. I just Googled it because I was curious about this. The first season covers the first book, but the second season covers the second and third book in the Shadow and Bone series. I'm curious how much of the third book got covered. Did they kind of jumble some stuff of like, it's an amalgamation of some of 2 got adapted and some of 3 got adapted, but there's still threads of 2 that needed to be covered? Was all of 2 covered and only some of 3 covered? It just, with the way season 2 plays out, there's definitely room for more story. I don't know if it would have just been like a third and final season and how that would have played out. I am someone who's never read the book, so I am just picking up on information I've read online. So if you are more knowledgeable in the book, do correct me in the comments down below. It's just such a bummer because I really enjoyed this story and I'm so excited to see where season 3 would have taken us. Is there room for it to possibly come back? Yes, but it's super unlikely. And what it comes down to is just not enough people watch the show for it to matter. And the problem is too, like, Netflix goes a long time before they, sometimes, some stuff they'll let you know quicker than others. Because I actually don't know off the top of my head how long it's been since season 2, but it's been a while. So I guess it just didn't do enough numbers wise to justify the making of the show, because it is, I can understand with like the special effects and maybe even the filming locations, because I don't know where it's being filmed and how all that works, but I'm sure that kind of racks up the price for the show. And if not enough people watching it, it's like anything. If not enough people watch it, it's not enough people need to watch it to justify the amount of money being put into the show, which is such a bummer. But I mean, that's how it is. It's just Netflix has on a few occasions, I think, changed their mind, but it has not been that often. And it's not a situation of like, oh, I want a movie. I would want this story to be able to tell its full course. It doesn't, once again, it doesn't change the fact is that we still won't get that 6 of Crows duology, but I would hope at least you'd be able to close out the Shadow and Bone side of things. But maybe you, even with a 3rd season, maybe you still wouldn't, because there'd be some threads left open because there was supposed to be a 6 of Crows spinoff. I don't even know if it's possible to shop the show at this point in time because it's Netflix and they own the rights to those. Maybe eventually someone can, I don't know if the show can be shopped anywhere currently. I don't know what the licensing deal is with that. Like, I know some stuff in the past is like, oh, you have to wait a certain amount of time for the deal to be fully done before you can start. So I don't know if like, oh, I don't think the author of the book, she can do too much in this regard. I know she had sold like there are other books of hers being developed, I think on Prime Video, but I don't think there's anything that can really be done on her side of things. It's just like the creative force behind the television show. I think they would be able to do more than maybe she would. I don't know. Maybe she has a lot to say in that too, where like this show can get shopped next, if it's even that position, because like I said, it might not be viable right now, and it might take a while before the show, like Netflix no longer has the licensing for that so that it can be sold. Once again, I don't know the behind the scenes enough, the ins and outs and the intricacies of those type of deals to know whether that's possible or not. It's such a bummer. I hope that something can be done, whether it is like Netflix changes their mind or whether they're able to shop this show somewhere else. I hope the show, if able to, I hope they're able to shop the show somewhere else to kind of give it a proper ending at the bare minimum, you know. But this might be the end of the road with the show, which is such a bummer, like I said, because it's just such a neat fantasy series. Once again, I know nothing about it. I know some people who've read the books were not happy with some decisions that were kind of executed about the show, but I thoroughly enjoy it. But that's, once again, because I've never read the books that they're based on, but I was thoroughly enjoying the show, and I would have loved to see where it went and where this cast of characters would have found, especially with what they set up in season 2, where things would have gone from there, especially for where Alina ends up. What that meant for her story going forward would have been really interesting. But along with some other like plot threads that were left open. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good